the Furries in the Media panel hosted by myself and Uncle Kage. And we've done this panel quite often, and it always evolves because every year we see more stupidity between furries and the media. Now, furry, it's not all about what you should do in front of the media, because there's been a whole history of furries in the media. Starting with, well, how do we want to define furries? As the current incarnation, or we want to go back to...
let's go back to prehistoric times.
Back to prehistoric times. Yeah. That doesn't sound like somebody believes that there actually was furries back then.
There were. Basically, your knuckle-dragging hairy ancestors like this guy here, they were writing on cave walls.
Yeah.
You know, it was like Uglat. Uglat's drawn on the cave walls, and he's drawing a horse, and he's drawing like saber-toothed tiger with a man's body, and Mumfuck over here comes and goes, oh, Uglat have fetish. Yeah, that was the start of it.
And then he went over right next to the drawing of the horse and ugh, like horse penis. That was the first bad media for the furry fandom right there. It was the first bad report. What?
It's like licking a Frenchman. Hence the name.
Can I lick a Frenchman?
You've licked a Frenchman?
Go.
Continue, you please.
Yeah, oh. Wait for it.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Wait. Really?
Yeah. It's exactly like licking a Frenchman.
I actually have to try that again to make sure it's really that bad.
It tastes exactly the way a Frenchman's armpit probably tastes.
I was just about to say, you licked a Frenchman?
Wow.
I have been around the block many times, darling.
Wow. That is unique.
We need to invent a new word in the English language for suck.
It tastes like grapes and suck. Yeah. I can't tell what that extra flavor in there is. It's almost
French.
Actually, maybe a honey. Grapes and honey, maybe?
Oh, maybe that's a typo. Maybe it's supposed to be Finch lick. Let's get back to the topic
back
again.
to the panel.
What is the... Okay, let's go back to when furries in the media first had their problems. I believe it goes back to the original Furcon.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, actually, it goes actually a little bit before that.
How so?
Well, because the Trekkie conventions, the Trek conventions, the sci-fi conventions gathered a lot of media attention. And when they did, the reporters showed up, and for the older people in here, you might remember, for a while, the media tried to drag them through the mud, too. It's like, they would show up and say, well, you guys are just really geeks here, aren't you? Just trying to have some sex and just, getting off on those green-armed women and the Vulcans and Klingons, aren't you? And the Trekkies went, yeah. And the media went, well, this is no fun.
Let's go find some furries.
Let's go, yeah. So they poked around until they found some furries. Well, you guys, you just have some kind of crazy sexual attraction to cartoons, don't you? And you just like to go to hotels and screw each other. And we went, it's not true. And they went, ooh, we found a good one. We can poke at this. And it will squirm.
That's exactly what happened.
Like a dying bunny. It is cute. And that's what they did.
Yeah.
And that's what they're continuing to do.
Because all they have to do is get a furry to get a guilty look in his eye when he asks a question, and that's all they need. And then they'll put your face on the news. Remember, we live in a society where if people don't understand something, they immediately assume it must be something sexual.
Or bad, or in some way.
Which, if you ask me, I think is far more a reflection on them than it is on us.
Yes, it is, because, if you can look at a guy walking around in a raccoon suit and automatically think, wow, that guy's going to have sex in that, who's really the one who's messed up here,
I had a little fun turning that around on Ms. Iverson, in fact, when she kept talking sex. I said, Miss, you really have a very unhealthy obsession with sex. You should really talk to somebody about that.
Yeah, I just buried the host's face in shit. It was awesome.
Now, why did I say that? One, I have training dealing with the media. Two, I have extensive experience dealing with the media. Three, I'm a jackass, and I don't suffer fools gladly. I don't mind turning things around on these people. I'm a performer. I know what they're trying to get out of the audience, and I'll get it first.
You know, a common misconception, and a reasonable one, I think, but still a common one, is that when a reporter shoves a camera in your face, many furries will get this instant idea of, I know what to do. I can save the furry fandom. I can save the image. I can do it right here, right now. I'll say the right things, and it'll all be groovy, and finally the real story will be out. But what they don't realize is that every furry that's ever set in front of a camera has had the same thought. It doesn't matter what you say. They need a face speaking some words, and they will put whatever connotation they want onto it. And there's nothing you can do about it. And what connotation are they going to put on it? Well, let's see. What sells more money? Basically, they're a business. They make money. Now, are they going to get more money about talking about how wonderful and enlightening and how free us furries feel and how it's such an innocent little thing? We go out and just practice our own absurdity, and we come here, we have so much affection for each other, and it's caused us to really be who we truly are? Or these people screw in animal suits?
Yeah.
That's what they're going to do to it. And if you happen to manage to say nothing that they can turn into that, they simply won't use it.
Or, in certain cases, they will creatively edit what you say. For example, the infamous Vanity Fair article.
Ah, yes.
Back in the year 2000 or so that came out.
2K1, yeah.
Yeah, it was 1999 was the interview.
Yes,
2000
right.
was when it came out, around April. Why do I remember these things?
It was the summer of 1999. We're old.
We are. It was back before the turn of the century. How's that?
Wow, when you say it like that now, I feel old.
I know, it sucks. Anyway, they interviewed someone who was referred to simply as the Griffin in the bar. Who could that have been? Well, the Griffin in the bar said some very insightful things. And when asked, is this all about sex? He didn't deny it. He's not going to lie to the guy. Young people occasionally have sex. Is that why we are here? Primarily, no. If people meet up with somebody, they develop a relationship, and they become very close friends, more power to them. But the idea that furry fandom itself is all about sex is a complete misconception. Now, those were too many words to print. So the article author decided to condense it to something, how did it go?
Yes. That's what they turned it. Is it about sex? Yes. What they actually did, see, the Griffin in the bar, which was me, has had
Sex.
And I've also had training with media. I've been educated in how to deal with media, how to speak with them, and I was doing really well. I was doing just fine. The guy sat down for about 3 hours and interviewed myself and a couple other folks, and we were just laying the wonderful. I mean, we were giving him some great answers. Well, isn't it? Do you guys think that everybody needs to be running around with tails and ears on? Well, no, we don't think that, but we would very much like it if the people who chose to do such a thing wouldn't be harassed. It's not hurting anyone. Wonderful answer. I mean, what can they possibly do to actually change that? We had that. We gave them the answers that they were dead on, that they couldn't possibly twist into something bad. And then he leaned over at one point and said, "So, tell me a little bit about fantasy." And I said, "Well, I'd love to have about $1.2 billion. A nice car would be good. New house, definitely." He said, No. Sexual fetish. I'm like, "Oh, I'm not going to discuss that." "Oh, come on. Something. Just give me something. I get in trouble. My job. I got to bring something back." I was like, "Well, I'm sorry, because that's nobody's business what I'm doing or thinking, especially." Okay, fine. So we moved on. The article came out. Griffin in the bar. Griffin in the bar has a job doing this, and he would like to be someday be a police officer again, where he could go out and fly around on patrol, and then he'd like to come home to his griffinous female who would have mad passionate sex with him and lay his eggs. And then they would go off on some kind of romantic thing where they would have more sex and God all the sex they would have. Which is not even like me because I'm not even, I'm
There's
gay.
an inherent fallacy.
I'm gay. So their solution, which is something that everybody needs to realize, is that even if you do say everything right, they'll scrap it and make the shit up. They will absolutely write it from nowhere.
That is lesson number 1. Know who you're talking to. Because if you know who you're talking to, you know what audience they're trying to reach. The local network news, ABC, CBS, NBC, whatever the heck they're called these days, they are in general fairly safe. They're looking at the 6 o'clock, 6:30 news where there's going to be kids. They're not looking for, oh my God, shock. They're looking for, gee, that's weird and interesting. Comedy Central, HBO, G4, The Man Show, they are not looking for, gee, that's interesting, isn't that curious?
Jimmy Kimmel.
Yes. Know who you're talking to. This gentleman was writing for Vanity Fair. I don't think at the time we really appreciated just what a goddamn rag Vanity Fair actually is.
Yeah, I kind of had respect for it until that came out. I was like, wow, this really sucks.
Considering, if anybody unfamiliar with the Vanity Fair article,
okay. Bit of furry history, actually.
Yeah, it was Midwest Fur Fest 1999. This guy came in. His name was George
Gurley.
Sorry. So George Gurley was going around interviewing people. He interviewed me for about an hour. I was extremely reluctant because I know his kind. I guarded my words very, very carefully. And I noticed that he used each and every one of my words, just in a different order in the article. He had about a paragraph. I had about 3 paragraphs. The other 9 pages was about a guy who likes to cut holes in his stuffed animals and have sex with them. This guy wasn't actually at the convention. They had dug him up out of the bowels of the internet at some point, but the way they wrote the article, it sounded like he was right there. They started out at the convention, then they did 9 pages on this guy. That was the start of it for us.
And the connotations they can actually make are amazing. Because they don't actually have to quote somebody talking about how, we're all perverts. Which, by the way, that's a good story. Another way that they actually bend the media is Mr. Orange-haired man outside of
yes.
That's your story. You go ahead with that.
I am often reproached by people who say, Uncle Kage is an asshole. He thinks he can control the media. You're goddamn right I want to control the media, because if I don't, who's gonna? I don't intend to control the media. That is fascism. I have no intention of controlling the media. I do have the intention of, as that old song goes, accentuating the positive, eliminating the negative. If you can show them the good stuff and just happen to neglect to show them the guy in the diaper over there with the stuffed animal shoved down the front of it,
well,
maybe...
Then you're just doing the opposite of what they came there to do anyway, which was ignore the good stuff and just look at the stuff, the freaky stuff.
I know their game. I can play it too.
Sorry.
So when the media show up, they talk to me. If they can't talk to me, they talk to my programming director. If they can't talk to me, they talk to my public relations director. They talk to someone who is trained and authorized to talk to these people, because we know the tricks. I got word Channel 4 is here. I can't remember, I think it was Channel 4. Channel 4 is here. I say Channel 4, they're some of our best friends in Pittsburgh. They love us. But when I went downstairs, I'm looking around the lobby. Where are they? Oh, they had gotten waylaid outside by a guy who felt that he wanted to save the fandom. He had the exact right thing to say. He was going to save the fandom all by himself. I'll fix this once and for all. Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. So when I walked outside, I walked behind the camera and I was watching the guy, and as soon as I settled into my stance, I heard him say, a lot of people think that we're sexual deviants. That's not true. Only about 10% of us are deviants.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I went...
See the headlines next day. Furries admit they are sexual deviants.
And I'm glaring at the guy, like... And he said with the camera rolling, oh, I better shut up. The chairman's giving me the evil eye. That's why some people say, Uncle Kage doesn't let regular people talk to the media. That's why!